Good night. Today we're joined again with Samuel O'Brien, Brooklyn College scholar in political science, and we are going to continue our discussion on the Black Lives Matter movement. We just want to find out from you, Samuel, what do you feel if Martin Luther King and Malcolm X were here today? Would they align themselves with the Black Lives Matter movement or the Liberal Party?
Firstly, thank you for having me. Uh,
It's wonderful to have you here.
Let me express my abnegation for the principles upon which the Black Lives Matter movement stands.
Mhm.
Now, it is in my perception that the Black Lives Matter movement is the antithesis of the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. Now, we see, as you said, Dr. King and other early pioneers of this movement fought and lobbied for extensively for tangible legislative principles and legislature that would actually be applicable towards black people being seen as equal, towards black independence. Now, this is opposed to the movement that we have today, where it is augmented based on false narratives, construed by the media, and I believe that if Dr. King or Malcolm X were around today, they would be highly critical of the Obama administration. Now, it is the ambivalence of the message of hope and change upon which President Obama campaigned, which caused him to be compelled to align himself with the Black Lives Matter movement in order to salvage his post-presidential legacy. And this is what I believe is the core meaning. Now, if you look at the examples, let's take Trayvon Martin, for example. Trayvon Martin was brutally murdered in cold blood by George Zimmerman. But if you were to listen to the narratives in the mainstream, preferably the liberal left media, you would think that it was a police officer who murdered Trayvon Martin. That is not true. Now, if you want to argue that the judicial system, especially in Florida or other parts of the United States, is corrupt, and that George Zimmerman should not be walking free, but he should be locked up behind bars, I totally agree with you on that particular issue. So we have the other example in which I don't want to say his name, but he was outside of a convenience store. I think it was in St. Louis, Missouri, and he had a unlicensed firearm. He resisted arrest, and the police officers and the law enforcement knew this prior to approaching him. So we go back to Dr. Martin Luther King's words: a man should be judged not by the color of his skin, but the content of his character. So they knew the content of that particular person's character. But it was unfortunate that he resisted arrest and he was shot and killed by the police. Now, if I paint a different scenario for you, if your loved one, your daughter or your son, would be going into that particular grocery store and they would be attacked, mobbed, or killed by this particular individual, especially after the police had been called, the same liberals will be out there advocating for stricter gun control. So we see the hypocrisy within this. So I think that, judging based on the principles that I understand that Dr. King and Malcolm X stood for, they would be pointing out the hypocrisy within the Obama administration. And that is just what I believe they would have thought about it.
Got you. So, the Trump administration has coined the slogan "Make America Great Again," and a lot of people have expressed their concern for this, claiming that it seems anti